thank you for coming to Coloring with the Cast. I think it's about being creative and fun, and I think this is very on brand for Comic-Cons. Who both of you have been to Comic-Cons before.
Yeah.
You know what the world is like.
Fabulous.
It's very colorful, to say the least. So let us begin with the arc and the fact that we are smack dab in the center of the first season already, and there are many things happening. So it's hard for me to kind of jump in and be like, well, between are we between 7 and 8 right now is where we are.
8, 9.
8 and 9.
Yeah,
8 and 9 is where we
yeah.
are right now. So, and I believe we found another arc. We're kind of moving to this world where now we have faster than light travel, and there are a couple other things there. But let's start with the beginning of the arc. What was the main thought about space moving forward and Earth, of course, having its issues, which it does, and trying to get away from it as well? So where did the thought of the arc come from itself?
Well, I think, the broader thing was Jonathan and I wanting to do a love letter to the kind of science fiction shows that made us want to be in science fiction. And then as we, were thinking about the show and what it could be, I think that the thing that appealed to us was this idea of, well, what if we had a show like this except for all the people who were supposed to run the ship are gone? What if all the doctors are gone? What if all the scientists are gone? What if all the navigators are gone? And the people who are left have to step up into those roles. And I think what we liked about that is it made the show much more about the characters and not as much about, space aliens showing up with laser beams that they have to dodge.
Right.
So we felt that was a way to separate us and have a different kind of show.
Right. And I want to ask too, in that same lines, it's always interesting where shows start. Of course, you write the characters, you create them, but when you cast them, who was the first one you cast who you thought you're in the show automatically, no matter what? Was it going to be Christy as Garnett, or where did you kind of start?
Well, it's interesting because Christy was the first person I thought of for the show, and she was the last person cast. So we have an app called Electric Now, which is a free streaming app, and it has or many of the shows that I've worked on and produced, but it also has shows that we just acquired to put on the platform. One of them was a film out of Canada called Black Fly. And Christy's in the film, and she's amazing in it. And when I saw it, I called Jonathan, I said, take a look at this. I think this girl could be our lead. But because that role is so important, we literally searched multiple countries. We did so many different screen tests and constantly showing stuff to the network. But every time we would look at people, Jonathan and I would go, I think it's Christy. And then we'd see some more people. And then finally it was like, all right, we're going to start shooting soon. We've got to cast this part. Yeah. But we were very careful with it because it is the central part of the show. And I was so happy that our initial instincts were correct because she just knocked it out of the park for us.
100%. Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit about creating the arc itself? Like what you wanted to do and allow the arc to be, because it needs to be so many things when you're stuck out there and it's not allowed.
You mean physically or
physically, how you created the arc, and more important, and also the idea of what it needed to be for them.
Well, we wanted it to be a pressure cooker. So we wanted most of the ship to be kind of claustrophobic, and because they're literally locked in. But then we realized we're spending the entire series on the show. We need to have some big open areas, and that's where the observation deck came from. That's where the place where the garden is, the dome out there is from that, just to give us some scope also. And we wanted it, we didn't want it to be one of those gloomy ships that we keep seeing where everything is, all the wiring and the conduit's exposed and everything's dark and kind of gloomy and blinking lights. We wanted to try to brighten it a little bit, make it a little more pleasant to watch week after week and to jump into week after week.
Well, and then, in that same thought pattern, do you guys do any of the math, like how big you think it is, how long this ship is? I mean, in the sci-fi world, we've had them miles long, and other ones we've had them like, it's just big enough for us to survive for a short hop. So did you actually work out the numbers of how big you think the arc is?
So we had this wonderful production designer who had worked with me on some other shows named Randall Grove. And he actually made these huge plans and there would always be like a little figurine of a human next to each one, so you can kind of get the sense of scale. So off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly how long it is, but it was all kind of designed with each section, how they function with each other, how you got from one place to another. And then as we built our sets, we tried to match to that as much as we could. You know, you have limitations of space and money, but yeah, it's a large ship. We thought of it as something kind of large, a little bit larger than like the biggest cruise line that you've ever seen. You know, so it's kind of in that size. But it was, you know, it was designed to bring a lot of materials to another world to build a new colony.
Right.
The idea was to make it, the idea was for people to come asleep the whole way. Once they get there, the ship actually breaks apart and takes things down to the planet, which is why it's so precarious when it gets hit.
Right.
Because that part was supposed to separate and go down. The domes are supposed to separate and go down. So that makes it have to have a certain kind of modular looking shape to it, which I think generated a lot of it, right?
Exactly.
So moving along, I made sure I didn't watch they sent me some episodes and I watched this week's, but I didn't watch next week's. I made sure not to. But that itself too, now that we have a world with multiple arcs out there and they're catching up to each other too, is this something where you wanted humanity to be kind of the forefront of like humans having issues with humans still, even after kind of escaping the whole planet?
Well, I think the thing is, you know, our whole planet just went through a crisis, and you saw that we didn't all agree on how to deal with it, you know. But I don't think anyone had the point of view of we should die, right? But in our best efforts to do the right thing, very often we're at odds with each other, with whether it's our philosophical outlook or greed or whatever plays into it. So, you know. The bringing of these other ships could be incredibly helpful, but it could also be incredibly dangerous. It really depends on where they're at intellectually, on the best way that they think they can survive. Right. So we've tried to not create characters that are just evil or just, you know, they're the bad guys. Right. But that their point of view is going to be very dangerous for the heroes that we've come to care about. Right.
Well, and then to that point too, we have a new characters who woke up recently who created you know, some answers as well as some issues along the way too. So what was the thought pattern of getting, I'm trying to remember his name, it starts with T. Trust, getting Trust onto this arc and having him part of this either command structure or part of, you know, it's almost a religion just for some people too, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit like Elon Musk in a way. He's got this. He's done so much for technologically for Earth. If you took Elon Musk and took him 100 more years, you know, it's probably the kind of thing he would have done. But he's also got an ego, you know, that sometimes gets in his way and will get in his way on the show. Right. And
the wife who fuels things as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I guess the question is, now that we know that the multiple arcs and some of the things we thought were aliens end up being humans, are aliens out of the equation, or is there still a question mark out there for us when it comes to the arc?
I'll never say never.
Yeah, I think the thing is, at least where we're starting our journey, is it's really about mankind. And our potential to do good, our potential to be self-destructive. So we really wanted to structure our stories around that, so that even if there is an action sequence, even if there's a crisis, it's there to exposit something about the character. It's so you can learn something new about them. So for us, at least in the beginning of this storytelling, the idea of aliens becomes a whole outside story, and right now we're still exploring the internal story of who these characters are and how their points of view is going to either lead to their survival or their demise. Right.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting too is you kind of have a couple different demographics on the ship, age ranges. Alicia as being the younger side of things as well too. So, what was your thought of how you kind of created some of those characters to allow you to show the different aspects of humanity still moving forward, I guess?
Well, I think the thing is, in general, it's a very young group because in the pilot, the older, more experienced people were in a whole other sleeping pod that got completely destroyed.
Right.
So in general, even the oldest person is young, until Trust showed up.
Right.
So yeah, we wanted to explore a diverse group of people, but that they're all inexperienced. So they may have had very different backgrounds. You know, one traveled the world, one was isolated in what they were doing. One was a celebrity, you know,
Right.
an influencer. But they were all fairly young. The biggest part of their life is ahead of them. And they were supposed to be the next generation in the new colony. They weren't supposed to actually be doing this now.
And most of them weren't even trained to be on a spaceship. They were
Right.
trained to be on a colony, on a planet. Angus, for example, was supposed to help with the planning on the planet and finding food and stuff. So they're thrown into a situation where they have to go, you're such an artist.
Keep trying if you like.
Yeah.
There's also stickers, we have googly eyes, we have a bunch of stuff here.
We need all of it.
Yeah, we need all of it. Creativity doesn't slow down anytime soon. So we've got to Arc 15 now, but there's nothing in the plans.
Statue of Liberty, I mean, it doesn't quite fit our show.
No, it doesn't. I just mislaid stickers. But there's nothing that says we have to stop at Arc 15, right? With faster than light travel, things are still moving forward on a dying Earth either way. So there's a lot of openness. You guys left a lot of open areas for you
Yeah,
guys. So
we don't know how many arcs are out there beyond 15. There's supposed to only be 12 as far as they knew. And so they're already surprised by the additional 3. So who knows what we could find.
Very cool. So as we move through this season, what can you kind of just tell people about how this next half of the season is kind of moving? How many episodes are we looking for in this?
We have 4 more left.
4 more left. So the next 4 episodes, what can they kind of expect in kind of a world building of the arc itself? Is it more about creating? We have all the things that are boiling now, and we kind of work through those, or is there still some more big surprises?
Expect the unexpected.
There's a lot of surprises to come.
Very, very cool.
This show throws a lot of twists and turns at you, by design.
Very cool. Well, I already enjoy the dynamic between all of them. I enjoy, I think, Spencer and Garnett as well. Both those together, those issues. And we'll have to see where trust comes into all this mix too, because you've already kind of alluded to some things there, some side glances and some shadows. So we'll have to see what happens, as well as some interesting relationships that I did not see coming as well either.
Fantastic.
So, very cool. Well,
Happy to hear
do you want to show us where you got so
Sure.
far? Yeah. So you chose red, I'm guessing, for the red planet in some regard. Or she was in red in that picture too, I think. And it was the red eyes because of the drugs?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. I tried to draw little lines, but it didn't work.
Well, I thank you very much. We look forward to the arc, and we look forward to seeing everything else. Enjoy WonderCon. You know, you met these people before, so you know how much they enjoy and live with you episode to episode too. So it's always kind of interesting to give them a new world to kind of delve into, whether they cosplay it or just enjoy it on the couch. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So nice
It's a
to meet
pleasure,
you.
100%. Please sign your art. We'll
You
take
bet.
a picture and put it up
okay.
afterwards as well.